Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig, and today we are going to be doing a big comparison video, and that is going to be comparing all of the main Tyranid melee creatures, both the small ones and the big ones, and seeing how they do in melee against a variety of targets. We do something like this when it comes to our deep dives, but that focuses on one unit individually. Today, we're going to see a broad list of all sorts of different melee options compared against to see which one is the best. We'll look at just sheer damage output. We'll also get points efficiency, and things like that. So if it sounds good, do like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our videos here at Maelstrom Game Studios. We'll probably do another one in the future that is a shooting-based one, as we're doing melee now. Though the shooting one hasn't changed too much as of late, where we did have a big change with the Synapse strength buff later, because I did do this video a while back. Either way, thank you guys, thank you members, and two other quick announcements. First off, if you're watching this at the time of recording or shortly after, we are live streaming on Monday. We used to do Tuesdays, we're switching them to Mondays now, 5:30 US Central Time, so stay tuned to that. And today's video could not be made possible without today's channel sponsor, Adept Roll. You'll hear more about them later, so let's get into the video. So like I said, I've done this video before at the beginning of 10th edition. I compared all of these monsters and infantry together. However, there have been lots of changes. The strength buff with Synapse, like I said, so all these comparisons will be taking that into account, because more often than not, if you're sending something into melee, you're going to want to try and get it into Synapse to get that extra strength. You've got the Neuro Tyrant to give those units Synapse. So yes, it's not guaranteed to have that strength buff, but we're going to be including it in this video. Also, point changes have happened. Since the start of 10th edition, there's been a ton of point changes for the Tyranids, and that affects the points efficiency of a lot of these units. So we'll look at them, we'll start with the infantry, and then we'll do the monsters. This is just the datasheet abilities on the datasheet. So say like the Wing Prime gives its unit sustained hits, the Tyranid Warriors reroll 1s, or if something has, you know, anti-infantry 2+ or something, you know, we're only counting for that. We're not bringing in stratagems or anything else, just the data sheets, their abilities in the Synapse buff. So let's look at every unit we are going to be comparing today. In the infantry, I have a block of 20 Hormagaunts, a block of 6 melee warriors with the Prime, 10 Gene Stealers with the Broodlord, 6 Von Ryan Leapers, because, you know, you might want to try those out for melee and just to see comparison. And then a unit of 6 Ravners. Those have been popping up a bit more in competitive lists. They're a nice utility piece that are great at killing the lower toughness models with, you know, lower armor save. So we'll look at them here in today's video. In the monsters, we have a Hive Tyrant. He's got the Lash with Bone Sword and the Talons. We've got the Swarm Lord, Old One Eye. We're going to look at some Carnifexes with the Crushing Claw damage. And we will be accounting for them being with Old One Eye, because you really wouldn't take them without him. We'll look at Screamer Killer. We'll look at the Harusfect, Trigon, Moloch, Norn Emissary, Norn Assimilator, and of course we do have to touch on the Toxicrin just a little bit. So our opponents for today's video is a standard list of what we normally do. We have the Guardsman, the Intercessor, Generic Terminator, Gravis armor style thing, Rhino, Land Raider, and the toughest thing in the game, in my opinion, for Tyranids to deal with is a Catan. So we're going to look at all those. Let's start with the infantry. I'm not going to go through every single column here. I'm going to point out some highlights, maybe some lowlights. You guys can pause the video, look at it, and then keep going. But yeah, this would take forever. I touch on every little thing. But what we can see is there are clearly two obvious winners here when it comes to their average kills. The melee wars and the Gene Stealers go back and forth with just how much sheer damage a unit of them can put out. The main difference, again, obviously, the Gene Stealers have the Dev Wound, so that helps against certain tougher targets that maybe the Warriors don't do as well. Or units with the Invones. But at the same time, the Warriors have the Twin Link, so they are re-rolling all of their wounds, which it goes back and forth. It's interesting to see how these numbers shake out, but they are pretty much in line. So something you'll have to consider if you're deciding which one to play with is which one fits your army's play style. Do you want the scouting forward doing the damage, or do you want the kind of the more slow lurking melee block that are the warriors? Still pretty fragile, the melee warriors are, but when they hit really hard. Some other things, I guess the Raveners are no real slouch when it comes to what they have. You'll notice that their main target is going to be the first two, the guardsmen and the intercessors. You really don't want to throw them into Terminators unless it's just one or two of them left. But they do just fine cleaning up their points. The Von Ryan Leapers do great into just guardsmen. However, you can see everything else really just falls off. And you probably, again, is the reason why you don't want blocks of 6 Raveners or Von Ryan Leapers. You probably just want to take a unit or so, a unit of 3 or so, just to do that infiltrating, some actions, screening, stuff like that. And then if we look at the points per kill or wound, so for the Rhino, Lander, and Catan, this is per wound. For everything else, it is per kill. And again, lower is better, meaning you're more efficient. What stands out here, again, the melee warriors are pretty points efficient for the damage they do. However, oddly enough, the Raveners do sneak up here. They're not too far behind in a lot of categories. They're pretty good when it comes to the guardsmen. They're okay at the intercessors. And because they're fairly cheap compared to the other things, they have the twin linked in the AP1, they are a surprisingly decent option, points efficient wise, to go into the Catan. If you look at our last graph, they're not going to do a ton of damage. I believe we were looking at 5 wounds, which is good for a Catan, but points efficiency, it's pretty good. Otherwise, the Leapers and the Warriors they're pretty meh in all regards. So today's channel sponsor, like I said, is Adept Roll, a brand new Math Hammer app, state-of-the-art Math Hammer app. Now, you might be saying, what is Math Hammer? And that is what we're doing in today's video, is calculating all of these odds, how likely you are to do something, what is the average damage, things like that. I used the app to do all of the calculations today. I could have done them myself. It would have taken me significantly longer, but today's app, today's sponsor, makes this awesome. So right now you can check out the links below. You can get it on iOS and Android. There are 2 different versions for the app. There is the free version, which gives you a large number of features, but if you want even more features to dive even more into the weeds, there is a paid version as well. So we have a little bit of a screen cap happening right here, essentially showing you everything you have that can go through here. So right now you can see we are adding the units we want to do. Some Tyranids here. We're going to have some Hormagaunts. They show you their profile already loaded into the app thanks to the creator. And you can add some results of how many of them you want to do. So in this case, we want 20 Hormagaunts attacking. We're going to give them some buff for maybe a stratagem here. And then we're going to go up against a specific opponent, and those are the Cadians. And you can see that these things do 24.95 wounds to the Cadians. So it completely overkills the 10-man squad. And if you saw in here, it gives you point values. It gives you all the other specific buffs you could think of. So if you want to talk about a strat to include, if you want to think about any other generic buffs, maybe your Tyranid player, you're looking at a Hive Tyrant and his lethal bubble. You can include lethal hits on here. Maybe you're looking at some other thing. This is not just Tyranid related. And you have something that crits with sustained hits on 5s to hit. Well, it'll account for that. Maybe it does sustain and lethal. It'll account for that. Anything you can think of is in this app, and you can really just test all of the numbers and see, really, is your attack worth it to go after? So a great app. I really have enjoyed playing around with it. So check out the links below to get to Adept Roll. Download it, try it out for yourself. Let the creator know what you think. Thank you again, Adept Roll, for sponsoring it. And now back to the video. We'll continue on into the monsters now. People like the monsters more than infantry typically anyway. So some of these I've had to double them up just because there is a lot of things to cover here. So the first one, Hive Tyrant / Swarm Lord. So the first number is Hive Tyrant, second number is Swarm Lord. And same thing with Old One Eye, and then the effects. First one is Old One Eye, second one are the current effects. Big things here is that actually when you're looking at sheer damage output, the assimilator is pretty solid. dealing with a ton of the stuff, which makes sense. He is there to just be that hammer that just slams into your opponent and does a lot of damage. Some things that is important to look at, if you look at the Terminator column here, no Tyranid unit is really good at dealing with Terminators successfully. No, I should say no Tyranid monster is. I mean, both Hive Tyrant and Swarmlord only averaged 3 of them dead. Screamer Killer, again, 3 of them dead. Old One-Eye, just 2. Toxicrin's lucky to kill 1. Haruspex, only 2. The Trigon, with its mighty amount of attacks there, is the most likely to kill 3 or more. But we don't have anything. Terminators are tough, but we don't have anything at the melee department that really just cleans through Terminators at all, which I guess kind of makes sense, but it is what it is. Otherwise, the Trigon, with its recent points decrease and the Synapse buff, it seems to be a leading contender here, surprisingly. You do have to take in the fact that Trigon is a large model and it is fragile, more or less, but with what we have here, it is a decent showing from the Trigon. And again, just like the Terminator, you go to the Catan, and Tyranids, again, have nothing to deal with the Catan. I mean, outside of Old One-Eye getting maybe 2 or 3 wounds through, which escalate to being 4 damage, that's it. The Assimilator does 3 wounds, Old One-Eye does 4, everything else does 2 wounds-ish, which is, again, why I hate the Catan so much, as they are so hard for Tyranids to deal with. Land Raider, again, we don't have anything in melee that really just rips open a Land Raider like we used to way back in 5th and 6th edition. But Old One-Eye and the Assimilator are great options there. You can look at, you probably want to, the Hive Tyrant and Swarmlord, they're good. They're not fantastic, but again, you got to take into account that they are also support pieces as well as being melee pieces. So you'll see in the points efficiency, they also won't be as good, but they do the job. I think that's pretty much it. The Haruspex stands out as the best to just kill intercessors, which makes sense with the sheer volume of attacks. But yeah, Emissary also just kind of falls in the meh category, as we know. And then looking at the points efficiency thing here, the Haruspex then starts to shine here, where it is only 125 points for its murder machine that it is. The trick is, again, you got to take into account this is just the damage output, assuming they get to melee with Synapse and they get to hit hard. Some of these monsters probably won't make it to melee all the time. Old One-Eye and the Haruspex are the most points efficient at killing their respective categories, but there's a lot of them that are pretty close behind the Trigon. In some cases, the Moloch, Screamer Killers are pretty points efficient. Again, they always just struggle with getting there. And the Emissary and the Assimilator are okay. They're not fantastic, but they're okay. And again, they have more rules that come into it from there. So that's pretty much it for the video. It's, I would say, short and sweet if you're just someone who's looking straight at the numbers, but it's interesting to look at. Maybe you can comb through these things and see maybe there's something that stands out to you, maybe something, you probably assumed, or something you assumed was better than it actually is. But it is nice to see all of these numbers on one page, at least one page for infantry, one page for the monster. I think for me, my biggest takeaways are something we kind of already knew, is that the Tyranid monsters in melee really just don't do it for us. In any regard. In some regards they do, but really they don't. And it is the melee warriors and the Gene Stealers that really do carry the faction when it comes to melee. Now again, durability, support, and things like that, yes, the monsters are good at, but I think we'll see the monsters shine a bit more when it comes to the shooting one. So if you do want to see the shooting variant of this video, let me know. I'll probably get to it in a week or two, depending on my schedule and how long I have time to do it. But thank you to our channel sponsor, Roladept. It makes doing this kind of video much more time efficient than what I was doing before, and I can count on it being a lot more accurate than I was doing. I was checking some of my numbers from the first time I did it. Most of them are pretty spot on. There was a few that was a bit off, so I'm glad to have Roladept to help me out there, and I'm really enjoying the app, using it for just my math hammer brainstorming type thing. So that's all I got. Thank you guys for watching. Again, check out the app in the link down below, and we'll see you next time here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios.